Listen to the newest album. Check out the latest video game. Do you see the similarity between these different types of media? You may have not noticed it at first, but all of these types of media highlight violence in one way or another. What do I mean by media violence? Well, according to psychology.iresearchnet.com, media violence includes all forms of communication that depicts the threat to use force, actually uses force, or shows the consequences of force on animate beings. So think about some of the things you've watched or listened to in the past week. Have you listened to a song about the overuse of drugs or alcohol? Have you heard of the violent acts on the news? This may not seem like a big deal because this is the norms in today's society. But when looking at the impressionable lives of our youth, we need to consider others above ourselves. AAFP.org says an average American will witness over 200,000 violent acts before the age of 18 on TV. The media is desensitizing kids to violence, increasing aggression, and reinforcing violent solutions to problems. When children are constantly being exposed to movies and video games that have the concepts of drugs, shootings, and alcoholism, the emotional responses will begin to subside. The ideas of mass shootings have become more understandable in the fact that this is just what the world has come to. Why have we let ourselves conform to the idea that this isn't a big deal? Violence should be a big deal. In addition, media violence increases aggression. Theorists with the National Institute of Health say that effects of exposure to media violence are priming, arousal, and mimicking. Now, after sorting through all of the medical wording and terminology, I uncovered the meaning of these terms. The repetitive viewing of aggression in behavior makes this behavior more prone to be copied in someone's actions. This can be tricky when you look at somebody's behavior because this can trick someone into thinking that this behavior is a good idea because violence can give a viewer a peek of emotions. The last effect of the media is reinforcing violent solutions to problems. I believe all of our parents at one time or another have used the phrases, "let's use our words," or "let's talk it out," instead of resorting to physical violence. But media is taking the talk it out step out of the question. Youth are utilizing observational learning and mimicking the aggression as solutions to problems. They are completely jumping to conclusions at inappropriate times. On the other hand, I understand the struggle many individuals have about completely removing media violence as a whole. If you look really closely, there's a lot more media violence than you may realize. The entire plot of Tom and Jerry highlights the killing of a friend to have more food. Looney Tunes depicts the frequent use of guns and anvils. These TV shows were my childhood, and I believe many of you remember these as well. We may not be able to control all the violence in our society, but we can regulate how much individuals are being exposed to. I also understand that there are other factors contributing to the violent behavior, but I also believe that those other factors, whether they be abusive parents or bullies or other negative impacts in people's lives, could have gotten that way because of the negative influence that media violence could have on their life. This problem is comparable to a food chain, and it continuously impacts person after person if we are not careful. The ways we can decrease the amount of violence in the media is by boycotting the media constantly promoting violent behavior. We can sign petitions. We can even educate our children to avoid this media by showing them how to live in a good life and how to live without violence in our lives. There are so many things to be positive about in this world, and I believe we can provide ourselves sufficient entertainment without opening ourselves up to a world of negative influence. So be the one to start the petition. Educate your children about this issue and have an effect on how this society's outlook will be.